So why is finding a better deal important? Well, it gives you margin of safety and it makes the exit strategy easier. It makes it easier to fund. It just makes everything easier. If you find a better deal, it helps you easier to find a buyer. So today we're covering a very important topic, and it's just because it's been painful for me lately. But the topic is today is finding better deals and negotiating on better pricing because it just makes things a lot easier. It's easier said than done, but it's important. And a lot of this is pain points. So I'm buying a deal hopefully tomorrow. Should be signing docs for it, if not tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow's Wednesday, but signing docs for tomorrow. But um, finding better opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and I think we've always thought in the past to kind of go after on-market stuff, and on-market stuff works, but it's really hard finding the arbitrage with the on-market deal. You have to really negotiate on terms with the on-market stuff, right, Bill? So, main thing I really want to dig into is if you can find better arbitrage opportunities on the front end, it just makes things a lot easier on the back end. And it's finding people with high motivation. So why is finding a better deal important? Well, it gives you margin of safety and it makes the exit strategy easier. It makes it easier to fund. It just makes everything easier. If you find a better deal, it helps you easier to find a buyer. Like there's a lot of big wins. There's a lot of big wins that come up when you find a really good deal. And we found some really good deals in the past, and it makes things a lot easier. Like one thing, like even with this deal, like I really want to see how fast I can move this deal just so I can kind of show the arbitrage. So I think it's worth like 650-ish, give or take. But if I can sell this deal for 550 and be done with it in under 45 days, 60 days, like we're hitting some serious strides here. And you can move a lot more transactions if you're finding highly motivated sellers. And that's the main thing is finding better deals, you're going to find highly motivated sellers. So let's talk about this. So tax-delinquent is I think Logan's thing. I'm going to Logan's event in Austin in a week from whatever, a week and a half from now. And his whole thing is tax-delinquent. Now, why is tax-delinquent highly motivated? Well, tax-delinquent is it's a really good lead source because it means that sellers haven't it doesn't have a mortgage because usually banks pay the taxes. So if banks don't pay the taxes, that means most time it's free and clear or some type of private lender. Um, the most time there's different states have different um, years of delinquency before they foreclose on it. So usually after a couple of years and they haven't paid on it, they're not going to pay. They're not going to make that payment depending on how much it is. And the bigger the asset, the more taxes it is. So tax delinquents are going to be a really good lead source for you that aren't going to. They have a lot of equity already, which is going to help you find better deals because there's no bank involved most of the time. Um, Divorce, the deal I'm buying tomorrow, divorce lead. He literally packed up his house overnight since we found out we're closing tomorrow or Thursday. He packed up his house and he's ready to bounce. He's like, "Can I pick up the check at the closing office? I'll drive by when I'm skipping town." You know, like he's ready to go. So divorce leads, um, vacant or abandoned. I have a lead in Oklahoma. It's been abandoned for 8 years, vacant. There's like a hole coming in the roof. Like these are leads we're gonna get a really good discount on distress because it is heavily distressed. Um, you're gonna find um, environmental and zoning issues. I had one of my acquisitions guys. He sent me a lead like last week, and it was a really good property. The problem was it was landlocked. It was landlocked and it was like a train track. And I'm like, man, if this was up the road a little bit where it was closer to the train track, there was a property right up the road, like two parcels up, that had a crossing over the railroad track. And like stuff like that is solvable, but his ended up the railroad track ended up curving and it was a little bit further off. So I'm like, man, if it was just few hundred feet up, it'd probably be okay. But it was a good opportunity just landlocked in and zoning issues. Inheritance. I have a deal I'm working on right now. I am really, really excited about it. I think we sent it out for paperwork a couple days ago, but they essentially attorneys are reviewing it. It's a deal with 32 heirs. 32 heirs. This is a good one, John. I'm working on this one too. This is 32 heirs, 70 acres outside Waco for 400,000. It's like 20 minutes outside of Waco. I'm excited about that deal. I think I'm picking it up for, let's see here. 400 divided by 73 is 5,500 an acre. 50, 54, 40, 5,400 an acre. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. I think it's worth a million. And we're picking up for four. So really good arbitrage of transaction just because of heirs, inheritance. So 32 heirs, if you do the math, 32 divided by 400, they're all getting like 12,000. So they're like, it's not really a big deal to them to make max profit if they're splitting it among so many heirs, you know? So you can really find good deals with heir deals, and you can target those directly. Um, Financial distress. It's really hard to find financial distress, but I think the main points is stuff that you can find is going to be tax, vacant or abandoned if you can pull those lists, or if somebody drives by, if you find an opportunity to find those opportunities. Um, and then we see this every once in a while, but over leveraged properties. We've seen this. Me and Bill have seen this recently, but over leveraged properties where they got a bank loan, and then they sold off part of the land, or they're trying to sell part of they're trying to sell off part of the land to pay for the bank loan because their loan is like 5,000 a month. Me and Bill looked at that one a couple weeks ago. Well, their bank loan was like 6,000 a month. I'm like, holy crap! And they already owned it for a year, and they're paying $6,000 a month on this land loan, which is crazy. And they probably put a big down payment on that too. So there's a lot of carrying costs if they did get a bank, just because they carrying the land loans are heavy because it doesn't cash flow. It doesn't cash flow. So you still have to finance it. So um, finding better deals, negotiating on better deals. One thing I will negotiate is um, when you're negotiating as a wholesaler, please negotiate or anchor lower than you think your numbers are. And the reason why I say that is because especially on land, your end buyer is going to evaluate your property usually more conservatively than you will. And this is just from my experience. So let's say hypothetically you found a land deal and you think it's worth 10,000 an acre, right? You might want to underwrite it for 8,000 an acre takedown. So it just means you might want to make an offer for 4,000 or 3,000, just so you can make sure you get a better deal. That way, you know you can find a buyer quicker. Now, if you wholesale it, you might be able to wholesale it for 5,000 an acre. You have your 2,000 arbitrage per acre. You might sell it for four. But it really, if you get a better deal on the front end, the your buyer or end buyer, wholesaler, whoever you wholesale to, if you bring in a money partner, like all these things make it easier if you kind of leave some arbitrage space for uh, their difference in numbers. So I've been contracting a lot of deals lately, and I had some hard lessons late last year. I was contracting like there were good deals in my opinion. I go send it to a lender, and the lender's like, "Yeah, I think it's worth 50,000 less," and I'm like, "Come on, like what are you looking at?" But it's not your money. It's not your money. So these land lenders are very conservative. Very conservative. Land buyers, very conservative. And for good reason. They need to make sure they're not losing on a deal. It's very, very important. On a house deal, it's very easy to find that price point and what the comp is and what it's actually going to go for, what a bank will appraise it, what a appraiser will appraise it for, what a bank will lend on it for. It's a lot easier to do those numbers. With land, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have that. So you really got to be really conservative on the front end if you're contracting and if you're negotiating terms with the seller directly. Uh, Number three is I'll say is go direct to seller to find better deals. We've done a lot of on market stuff, and sometimes there's stuff there, but you're gonna find more stuff doing on market. Now, how are you doing on market? So I actually just interviewed a marketing agency that I'm going to test out, and I'll let you know how it works. But I'm planning to do PPC and some probably cold calls, or have an agency cold call for me. Just kind of, and I'll do my specific targeting of like 20 acres or more in hot areas. Good evening, Carla. But you wanna make sure you're targeting areas. Like I have a deal right now in Crockett. Now Crockett, it's near the Texas Triangle. It's north of Houston, but I think it's a little bit further out. And I put ghost ads out, and I cannot get traction even at a lower price. Like I said, I comped I comped it for like 9K an acre, uh, close to 10K, like 95 to 10K an acre. I put it out there for 8,000 an acre, and my DMs are crickets. Since it's more rural, people want a cheaper discount, and there's not enough buyers out there. So you really have to provide the value on the front end, especially if you're in rural markets. So that deal I might dump because I underwrote it conservatively. I'm in it, I think EMD right now, and I think I'm only in AMD right now, but I still have like 30 days in the contract, but I think I'm just gonna let it go just because I didn't lock it up deep enough. And these are learning lessons, you know? I'm losing money on AMD, but that's okay. It's not, I didn't buy deep enough. Like I said, a lot of these things are learning lessons for everyone here, but there's stuff I'm going through. You just need to buy deeper deals. Um, you need to buy deeper deals. Makes it easier for everybody. Um, direct mail. Direct mail is something I'm definitely gonna mess with in in the future to get more lead flow. But like I said, I'm messing with PPC and cold calling probably here in the near future. I'll probably get PPC ads up probably within the next week or so, and then same thing with some cold call leads, just kind of test it out, test the waters. But you're gonna find opportunity there, and you're gonna find the best opportunities um, going direct to seller. Um, here we go. Any questions on that? Yeah.
What do you mean by buying deeper? And you said you didn't market deep enough. Was it that because you didn't do things like what PPC and direct mail? What exactly?
Um, so some of that lead specifically in Crockett, we didn't negotiate deep enough, and we're there's not it's a slower market. So with the slower market, you need to provide a bigger discount since it's in a it's there's not enough buyers in that area. So my whole thing is like if you're in if a market that it's a really good market, really close to town, outside of the main city, you can be a little bit more conservative because people are going to pay a higher price, and they're going to move on that price quicker just because if you let's say the $100,000 deal. Let's say that deal's worth $100,000, you underwrite it for $100,000. A buyer will jump on that deal for 80K all day long because they already know if they're attuned to that market, they're going to get a 20K arbitrage, and they're going to recognize the opportunity. Whereas if I find a 100K deal for 80K in a rural market, even if I put it out for 80K, somebody might not even want it just because it's like, oh, it's not a deep enough discount. I'll wait for it to get to 70 cents or 60 cents on the dollar just because they're looking for a better cash opportunity, and they know there's no buyers out in that market, and they'll just wait you out. Essentially, they'll wait you out, and then we've seen that too, where buyers will they'll depending on how much inventory you pick up, which is why another thing I'm afraid of picking up too much inventory in a certain area. They'll wait you out till you drop the price, especially if they know there's not a lot of buyers. So the people that do buy, they'll be like, it's a deal, but it's not a good enough deal for me. He's got 10 more lots. I'll wait till he gets to his last one. I'll just pick up his last one for the cheapest price. So you really got to understand your exit opportunity and who that end buyer is, and what opportunity they want. And you can get away with stuff, like I said, if you're closer to town and a hot market, but if you're further away, you really need to be careful on those opportunities. And it makes to be an opportunity, you just have to wait on the market for 6 months to a year. And you can go to those markets sometimes, and you'll see those higher price listings. they're on market for 6 months, 6 to 12 months, which may be okay for them, but I'm trying to exit stuff in 90 days or less. That's my target exit. So if you're looking at the speed of transaction, you really need to find better opportunities. Make sense? So, um, tax delinquents, those are really the main things. Main thing I really want to dig on is go direct to seller. Please go direct to seller. If you guys aren't getting deals or traction, figure out what marketing budget is and get it out there. Get some marketing out there and really figure out where that best target market is and just target that hot market. You always want to get deals where the buyers are. You don't want to be in a market where there's no buyers. And you may find a good opportunity there, but if there's not enough buyers or not a lot of buyers there, you're going to be stuck sitting in the inventory for a long time, and that's where you're going to get killed with your with your contract time and your due diligence time, and with your end buyers on the exit. You're going to get killed in those areas. Good question. Anybody else have any question about that? Um, One thing I'm doing is I'm still digging in creative finance for people that want a little bit higher price, but I'm really digging in on the terms. Um, there's opportunities out there that you can still get with a great price with terms. I'm messing with some new creative finance strategies um, that I may allude to here in the future. I have an offer going out on a really good one. I'm getting a 150K deal seller financed for with 20K down and 850 a month, and the deal's worth 220, my guess. So potentially create a wrap, but still looking for those opportunities. I think it's like 60 cents, 70 cents in the dollar or so, give or take 70 cents on the dollar, but with a low down payment. I'm hoping I can just wrap it because if I can get it for 220, that should be a 20K down payment. I should be able to create a wrap pretty easily off of that. So the down payment's enough where my exit is 10% down still, and I can just wrap the payments.
How many
So
years with that seller?
it's 0% interest for 10 years. So my balloon when it balloons out, I owe 'em 30 grand. So it's a nice little 0% interest loan for 10 years. So I'm looking for more opportunities like that. Especially if they're higher priced, we can get really good terms on the financing, um, just to make it work. But I'm waiting on we sent it to his attorney. We sent it to his attorney to review, and we're waiting on it for it to come back. Can you do a class on wraps and seller financing? Yeah. I mean, I can go over seller financing. When people when I jump in my calculator, people always get lost. But if you understand financing and how financing works, you can always create good terms for you. Um, One thing I'm gonna show you too. I have this methodology. I'm gonna pull it up. I really believe, and I stay on this all the time. This is why I bring it up very often, and I have it handy. Is um, you have a lot of opportunities to negotiate when it's undervalued, and cash should be your last opportunity, your last negotiation standpoint whenever you're negotiating. So um, I think I'm okay playing in the fair market value and undervalued. I'm not really messing with the overvalued stuff just because it's there's plenty of opportunities out there that you shouldn't mess with overvalued terms. And yeah, you can still make it work on the right opportunity, but you should really dig in on undervalued assets with good terms. And you're really going to be in the money for a long time over and over again. You cannot go wrong with undervalued assets with terms. Cannot go wrong. It's really, really hard to go wrong. Um, your your terms create a deal in it by itself, and if you can get a great price and terms, it's really, really hard to lose. Um, so it's kind of digging in on those two things. So um, a lot of what I do is I'm looking at shorter or longer balloons, even if it's undervalued. I'm okay with that. But if you can control an asset for a short amount of time and essentially do some type of innovation, it's a great arbitrage without having to bring all the cash to the table. Because one of the biggest things with land is cash. The bigger deals you're trying to do, finding the cash or finding the right cash partner, and providing the right security for them is always going to be your hang up, and it's going to be your hang up for your end buyer as well, whenever you're trying to exit these land deals. So if you know how to properly create good terms for your end buyer to essentially take over those terms, it creates win-win scenarios for you as the wholesaler and for your end buyer as well, where they don't have to bring as much money to the table. I can pop this in the chat. I know some people have seen this for the first time. This is my segment called Navigating the Offer. But I have um I'll release a full video on this, kind of go over each thing. I haven't done it in a while, but I'll release a full video on YouTube about the navigating the offer. But I'll pop this in the chat if you haven't seen this before. Let me add that right now. Doo-doo-doo-doo. From your computer. Graphics. All right, here we go. It's in the chat. You want that. All right. Anybody have any questions? Come on, Bill. You got a question for me today?
Well, yeah, I do, but I guess for other stuff. But then I guess I know you mentioned it before, let's say when you're looking at the partial shape, and let's say if, let's say it has two sides of frontage, but one side is kind of like the highway, it goes by the speed, and then like I said, depend on the county and how far the distance into the property, if we were to subdivide, right? I guess could be a deal breaker. It looks like a deal, but then of course, if it's a highway, it's not that good.
Yeah, so highway highway we dealt with it recently. We had a 65 mile per hour speed limit, and getting driveway spacing on that was hard. So it kind of messed with our subdivide plan, and we had to do a lot larger lots, and it makes it less appealing too because of the speed limit, and there was like no
Yeah,
pull over. So people are like every detail you don't even think about, people are looking at it because they're physically driving it. Like, man, where do where do I pull over, and B, the people are flying by me if I am pulled over. So like
exactly.
people are like, "Ah, I don't like this." So we got a lot of like bad feedback from stuff like that. So your driveway space, and that's where the driveway spacing does come in. It's a safe distance that people can turn into a prospective lot without causing an accident, which is why driveway spacing is important. So depending on the speed limit of that road, it's going to determine your driveway spacing. And you can always call text the department or whatever Department of Transportation, whether it's Texas or not. There's like regional text dot if you're Texas, or if there's regional. I've talked to like Florida Department of Transportation as well, but there's a pretty readily available regional managers for the Department of Transportation, depending on the state, that can answer a lot of your driveway spacing questions.
Yep.
And they answer it pretty quickly. So it's part of if you're front end due diligence process, if you're especially if you're trying to sell about subdivide or partner with a subdivide, you want to get all those questions up front handled, and
Yep.
kind of have that laid out to kind of show your experience on subdivide, because it can change and it will change, and sometimes it can get pretty crazy depending on the speed limit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, appreciate that.
And the other thing to account for that too is like neighboring parcels and their driveway spacing. Their driveway spacing is going to affect your driveway spacing. So let's say hypothetically you have a lot square, and you have let's say your property line's right here and your property goes left. If there's a driveway right on the edge of their lot and your lot, you have to go off of their lot for driveway spacing. You can't just build another driveway just because it's your lot. So it's off the neighboring driveways as well that they go off of, not just your parcel.
That makes sense. And that's why sometimes when some properties have easements, that kind of kills the deal, right? Because I've talked with some agents like and other buyers, they just don't like that for that reason, I guess.
Yeah, um, easements in like flood zone. Like even the deal I'm buying tomorrow, like it has a creek cutting through like halfway back. So it, I already know how I'm gonna have some buyers. I'm like, no, I don't like it because there's a creek cutting through it, and I'm like, okay, there's still extra usable space, and I don't even know how big the creek is, but there's still benefits to people that want land. And like I said, a lot of times they can overcome it with a culvert, depending on how big the creek is, or or how wide it is. But there's ways to get around it if they wanted to. It's just different preferences for different people, and sometimes people don't even care. It's like as long as there's usable space in the front, they're gonna be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
And usable space might be like an acre. As long as you have a good acre, people are okay with it in most cases, and they're not gonna hit you too hard on the discount for having a creek or flood zone.
Yep.